Portugal is a country with half of its border facing Spain and the other half facing the sea, the Atlantic Ocean. These men and these women are living very nearly the same lives their ancestors did hundreds of years ago. These are the fishermen of Sesimbra, and we'll meet them today as Discovery goes to Portugal.
Discovery 70, the award-winning program for young people with Virginia Gibson and Bill Owen.
Hi, and welcome to Discovery. This is one of the 7 hills on which Lisbon, Portugal, like Rome, was built. From here, you get a good look at the city.
In a sense, the life of Lisbon is hidden in the valleys among the 7 city hills. You can be down in the city in the great formal square, which faces the river Tejo, and still not really be aware of the density of life which surrounds you.
This square is officially called the Plaza of Commerce, but no one ever really called it that. The Portuguese have always called it the Plaza of José I, and the English travelers a century ago gave it its most famous name, Black Horse Square.
The horse was cast in bronze and was never really black, but so it seemed to the English and the name stuck. The King José I was never very military, but this is the way he, or his clever minister, the Marquis de Pombal, wanted to have him remembered. Pombal fell into disfavor after José I died. Eventually, he was recognized for what he was, an intelligent and gifted man who was responsible for a lot of the look of Lisbon.
While the rest of southern Europe, including parts of Portugal, was building elaborate and fancy Rococo churches and palaces, Lisbon was constructing simple and classic buildings like these. The style came to be known as Pombaline.
The architecture of Lisbon holds a key to its past. It isn't in one unified style because it was built and rebuilt over as many as 2,000 years. The reason is a series of earthquakes which for a time visited the city every 200 years. This is the oldest house in Lisbon. It is La Casa dos Picos, the House of Points. Once it stood in a closed-in alleyway, but time and earthquakes have opened the city till it now stands in a broad street called the Street of the Codfishers. These 2 houses rocked so violently that the roofs still lean together 200 years later. How did they stand when so much of the city fell? It's partially fate, and the Portuguese are great believers in the role fate plays in their lives. This quarter is the Alfama, one of the oldest parts of Lisbon, once the area where Jews and Arabs lived. In the Alfama, it's difficult ever to be far from the sound of human voices.
Bati à porta da vida para pedir lugar. A dor abriu-me em seguida, dizendo pode entrar. Disse adeus, amo na praça e entrei de olho risonho. Trazia para enxovar um baú cheio de sonho. E estranha pousada, sem luz nem repouso, destino maldoso que um fado telho. Fechei os meus olhos, perdi-me de mim, não sei de onde vim, nem sei de onde vou. Paguei a estadia, paguei o amor, paguei o favor de ser engraçada, paguei a alegria, pequena e mesquinha.
The words in the Portuguese language which begin with AL are clearly from Arabic. and reveal the Moorish influences which have shaped this city and these people. Nowhere is it more evident than here in the Alfama, the closest thing Lisbon has to a Kasbah or Arab quarter, though now everyone lives here together, very much together.
Eu quero ser uma escrava, para não mais pertencer. Até na vida se paga licença para viver. E estranha pousada, sem luz nem repouso, destino amaldiçoado que sábio tenho, fechei os meus olhos.
One of the words which came from Arabic is a key word in the way the city and the whole country look, a key to the way they're decorated. That word is the word for these brightly colored tiles, which you see everywhere. They are azulejos, and in them you can find stories of saints and sinners, of daily life and eventual death. You can even find the whole part of town represented in ceramic tiles, then go and find it in the houses and the bright stairways of the Alfama, or of the Bairro Alto, the high quarter, or of the Muraria. You can find the women who sell fish in the streets. These are the varinas, the fishmongers who wander the streets of Lisbon selling sardines and carapau, the little horse mackerel which are the staple of the average Portuguese diet.
Wherever you go in Portugal, late in the morning, you'll see housewives having bought their fish from the varinas, cooking sardines and carapau outside their houses on little charcoal cook stoves. They do it outside, partly because they want to rid the house of the smell of fish, and partly because that's where life is. That's where their friends are.
The fish that roast over the open fires of the Alfama are brought from the sea to little coastal villages like this. This is Sesimbra, across the river Tejo and across the peninsula from Lisbon. Here, about 10,000 people live, and nearly all of them are dependent on the fishing industry for their livelihood in one way or another.
The men of Sesimbra are at sea, are preparing to go to sea, are resting after having returned from the sea. They live the lives their fathers lived, and their grandfathers, and their grandfathers. There are motors on the fishing boats now, but remarkably little else has changed. Outside the loggia, a kind of storeroom on shore corresponding to a fishing boat out at sea, we find the crew of the Deusa da Bahia, the goddess of the bay. Abel Olival owns the boat. Among the 8 crew members are a father and son. José Alberto Azevedo is 18. His father, Adrian Azevedo, has been a fisherman for 50 years. Abel, José, and Adrian will soon take to the sea, but this time we'll go along, and we'll do that in just a minute.
The Deusa da Bahia is medium-sized as the fishing boats of Sesimbra go. There are a few that are larger and can carry as many as 25 people, and some that require a working crew of 11. But there are also some with as few as 3 or 4, even 2 men. The Deusa da Bahia's 9-man crew is supplemented by 2 others who work back in the loggia, and with whom Abel, Olival, and the others can communicate by radio. Over the years, the fishermen of Sesimbra have had to go farther and farther out to sea to do their work. Some of them now go off for 2 and 3 days, as far as the Algarve, the Portuguese province at the extreme south tip of the Iberian Peninsula. Fishing here is a little like farming. There's a sowing of the seed, and then there's a harvest. The bait fish are the seeds, and the crop at the end of the day are the peixe espada, which constitute most of the catch in the waters off Sesimbra. These fish, when caught, float on the surface of the water.
aí. Olha, vocês dois mais convite que banho chega.
From time to time, the harvest yields up something unexpected. This time, a large octopus. Now, with a full catch, the Deusa de Bahia will head for home.
Away from the now empty rowboats that are used to ferry the men out to their fishing boats, and with other larger boats working in the distance, the life of Sesimbra goes on. Up here, high above the heights of the town and the surrounding farms, there's the ruin of an old castle, the Costel de Sesimbra. Up until the 16th century, the people lived not down there, but up here, within the walls of the castle.
They came here at night to live and sleep because that way they were safe from the pirates, Arab and Spanish and English and others, who made life here so difficult in those days. Only the dead sleep up here now. But it's still the best place from which to see the village of Sesimbra as it lies, almost pouring into the sea from the valley, between two long, low mountains.
Daquela vez em que eu cantava a teus pés frases que não tinham fim. Quando o luar prateava e quando a noite orvalhava as rosas desse jardim. Quando o ar prateava e quando a noite orvalhava as rosas desse jardim. Jardim de serra e deserto que eu vi tão longe e tão perto, o passado que me assombra. Devaneio e realidade, silêncio, sombra, saudade, saudade.
The beach is relatively calm now, but in a few minutes it'll explode into a kind of sandy bazaar, which twice a day is an integral part of the life of the village of Sesimbra. Today's catch will be sold, but not in any way we can recognize, with boxes and burros and men counting backwards. And we'll see all of it in just a minute.
The fish of Sezimbra's crop are sold right here on the sands of the village beaches. They're sold at a lota, or auction, to which brokers from Lisbon and other centers of population come to buy the freshest fish at the best possible prices.
Most of the fish are auctioned off in boxes of 30, or sometimes 20. Or in the case of the peixe espada, lots of 30, with the 30th fish laid across the last 4 to indicate the end of a lot. The auctioneer starts off with a high bid and works backward till one of the brokers, not wanting to lose the lot, jumps in and accepts the price. Before the lota is completely finished, there are signs around the village of Sesimbra that the working day has come to a close for the fishermen. Wet clothes hang on clotheslines, and empty boots stand outside doorways, which have been open all day, but now are closed as the fishermen try to get a few hours' sleep before they have to go to sea again. Silence is at a premium in villages like this one.
The fish auction, the lota, happens twice a day in Sesimbra, in the early evening and at dawn. Since they fish for the most part by day, José Alberto and his father live a more or less normal routine, sleeping when it's dark, getting up before it's light again, and going out once more to the sea. José Alberto and Adriana Azevedo are following a life their ancestors followed in this village in nearly the same way. The lines are nylon now, and there are motors where there once were only oars. But it's still not an easy life. The fishermen of Sesimbra hold on to it because this is what they know and like. It's partially fate that will help bring a full catch tomorrow, when the Deusa de Bahia again will take to the sea.
The fish of Sesimbra are bought for use in a Portugal which fishermen like José Alberto and Adrian know little of, and for the most part have never even seen, though it's a mere 50 minutes away. A large part of the catch is destined for use on the tables of Cascais and Estoril, the year-round resorts just up the coast from Lisbon.
Even here in Lisbon, where people have lived for 2,000 years, they probably have little realization how dependent they are on the working lives of men such as José Alberto and Adrian. Men who fish from the villages of the Outra Banda, or the other side, as the peninsula is known to everybody here.
These are people whose small nation once navigated the world and who owe more to their sea frontier than they do to the mountains and the rest of Europe. They're people whose favorite emotion is saudade, yearning, and whose belief in fate is so strong that they've made the very word, fado, fate, their own immortal song form. They're joyous and melancholy, and like their great city, their beloved Lisboa, full of wonders and endless surprises. We'll be back in just a minute.
We hope you've enjoyed our visit to Portugal, a nation only as big as West Virginia, but which managed in her time to explore the ocean world through the adventures and courage of her navigators.
If you'd like to find out more about Portugal, its history, and its people, ask your librarian for any of these books. Manuela Lives in Portugal by Camilla Jessel, The Portuguese Explorers by Walter Buer, and this book, The Portugal Story by John dos Passos, a famous American of Portuguese ancestry.
Be sure to be with us next week for another exciting program as Discovery continues to discover the world. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been a Jules Power production in association with ABC News.